Well, it's great to be here today in conversation with Dr. John Maxwell, a New York Times bestselling author, leadership guru. And John, thank you for being with us. You're taking the time in the midst of lockdown to join us. We really appreciate that. How are you?
I'm fine, Rob. Great to be with you. Thank you for having me. Anytime we can help people, especially during difficult times, that's what we do. So I'm just delighted to have some time with you and obviously with your viewers.
Yeah, well, obviously a lot of viewers are in the midst of this pandemic because it's no respecter of persons. And I think a big issue for leaders at the moment is working out how we control and lead our emotions internally, those feelings of fear, anxiety, worry, as well as lead our people out there. So could you just speak into that, and what advice would you have for us to lead ourselves in here and lead others out there?
It's a great question, Rob. And let me address the fear factor first, or the negative emotions that we all experience. Just because you're a leader doesn't mean you don't experience negative emotions. Just because you lead doesn't mean you don't experience. I have fears. In fact, I'm always kind of amazed when people say, well, get rid of that fear. And I kind of look at them and say, I'd like you to help me know how to do that. I've not quite been able to conquer all that. I've got questions in my life. I've got fears in my life. I don't really think we just kind of like remove all fear from our life. I don't think it's quite that easy. At least it's not that easy for me. So I always have fear. I always have questions. I mean, I may be leading, but I don't always have answers. I may have doubts.
Yes.
Especially when you're leading in virgin territory where you've never been before. I mean, I'll tell you what arrogance is. Arrogance is looking around and saying, follow me, I have all the answers. Instead of saying that, I say, follow me because I'm authentic. There's a difference. People don't want a perfect leader. They want an authentic leader. And so I have questions. I have fears. But here's what I tell people all the time. We have the negative emotion of fear within us, but we also have the positive emotion of faith within us.
Yes.
They're opposites. They're enemies. I have both of them. It's not like I have no faith and all fear. It's not like I have all faith and no fear. I got them both. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay. So the question is not, do I have both of these emotions in me? The question is, how do I reduce one and let the other have priority and dominance? Because what I've learned is the stronger of the two emotions that are within me, Rob, that's what I'm going to follow. So if faith is stronger than fear, even though I still have some fear, I'll do the faith walk. If fear is stronger than faith, even though I have some faith, I'll follow fear. So the question is not removing something. The question is feeding something, developing it, and making it a priority and making it dominant. So I tell people all the time, feed your faith.
Yes.
Feed your faith and starve your fears. You could also, if you want to, you could feed your fears and starve your faith. And so what I've got to do is I've got to build my faith up. And so people say, well, how do you feed your faith? It's very simple. What we focus on expands. This is true. This is a universal principle of life. Hey, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. What we focus on expands. So it's very simple. If I focus on faith, then that faith is going to be greater than my fear. I'm going to build my faith and reduce my fear. So in times of crisis, do I have questions? Do I have uncertainty? Do I have some fears? Of course I do. But my faith is so much stronger than my fear that my faith leads me, not my fear. So I tell people all the time, don't try to get rid of a negative emotion. Just don't focus on it. Focus on the positive emotion. It's kind of like if every time a negative emotion gets in my hand, I try to hold on to it and I clench my fist and inside is fear or anger or whatever negative emotion I might have. Here's what I know. As long as I have a closed fist and I'm focused on holding on to that, everything that is good that comes, if you came and said, John, I'd like to give you some money, I can't even open up my fist to get the good stuff because I'm holding on to the bad stuff. Yes. I'm focusing on, and what I tell people all the time is quit trying to focus there. Quit trying to hold on to that. Let it, just open it up so that you can have now a hand open to go and do the things and receive the things that have abundance and opportunity for you. So As a leader, I focus on my faith, not my fear. Now, that's what I focus on. I teach my people to do that, and then I teach them perspective.
Mm,
Because how we view things determines how we do things.
very good.
That's a fact. It's just a fact. That's why two people can be in the same room, same meeting, and come away with two totally different observations. And by the way, both of them are right. See, the mistake we make is we say, well, I know mine's right and yours is wrong. No, I tell people all the time, no. A negative person's observations are just as real as a positive person's observations.
Yes.
It's not, we see things not as they are, we see things as we are. And so therefore, I help people begin again to get this perspective that begins to change everything. It's okay. It's the 12 spies, Canaan, they go out, scout the land, they come back. Hey, can I tell you something? The negative guys on the poles were carrying the grapes just as long as the positive guys were.
Yes.
They were looking at the grapes. They were touching the grapes. They were eating the grapes, the figs, the pomegranates. It wasn't like they weren't exposed to great things. It's they chose not to see great things.
Mm.
It's a perspective. And the bad thing about leadership and fear, Rob, is that the case again of the children of Israel, because they followed fear instead of faith, they wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. And just think of the incredible waste of opportunity, human potential, all that, because they're wondering. But why are they wondering? They were wondering because they face fear. By the way, after 40 years, God brought them back to the same place. And what I tell people all the time is, you don't avoid the agenda of God. You just delay it.
Mm.
40 years of wandering, he says, oh, by the way, the land's still over there. The Jordan's right here. Come on over here. What are you going to do? What are you going to do this time? So as leaders, I think we have to have an authenticity with our people. And one of the things I say is you need to tell people the uncertainties that you have. It's okay for you to look at your people and say, I don't have all the answers, because can I tell you something? Nobody has all the answers. Nobody's going to Google COVID-19 and say, and have Google tell us when this thing's going to be over. We all have uncertainty. I don't know how long this is going to last. So what you need to look at your people and say, look, I don't know myself. Month, 2 months, a year, I have no clue. It's okay. You see, I think as leaders we can be uncertain. I just think we can't be unclear. Wow. And I think sometimes we get the two of them confused. Okay, I'm uncertain. I don't have the answer, but I'm very clear. I lead for today, because the most clarity I have is what I'm doing today. So I lead for the moment. The difference between a puzzle and life is this. When you put it, you've got to say on this table, I got a 1,000-piece puzzle. Okay, there are a lot of pieces to put together. But how do I begin? I don't begin by just saying, okay, let me get these puzzles. No. I look at the picture on the box. I get a good picture of what it looks like, and that helps me find the pieces and put them in the right place. I get the picture before I begin. Life is exactly opposite. You've got to begin to get the picture.
So good.
And what happens is there are a bunch of people that say, well, I don't know, so I'm not going to get started. I'm not certain, so I'm just going to hold. Well, the resources of life don't come to us while we are in a still position. They come to us when we are in a action moving position.
Yes.
This is huge. I call it advanced attraction. When you know who you are and you know what you want and you start moving, then the resources start to come to you. There's no such thing as I've got a clear vision of what I'm going to do for the next 20 years. Well, you must be amazing. I've never had a clear vision. I've had a vision.
Yeah.
But it wasn't total. In fact, if you see it all now, 20 years out, you're not going to have any expansion and growth in your life. I kind of feel badly for you. A small piece of the puzzle, as I go, the pieces come together. And it's the movement that brings the people, the resources, the money, the time, everything that I possibly need. When I stop moving, the resources stop.
That's so helpful. Obviously, we're at a time where we're saturated with an option of being productive or being consumed with the consumption of negative media. How do we focus on being productive with some rather difficult circumstances? And please, could you, I'm just slightly intrigued by what you have to your left and to your right, John, some lemons. I'd love you to just unpack that for me.
Well, I'll be glad. Rob will be glad. I'll be glad to. It's a visual. You know, Stanford research says 89% of what we learn visually. So, you know, well, one of the great things is they're watching us right now. Vigilance is huge, and so we're in a crisis. See, first of all, every day I'm handed a lemon in good times. Every day, you know, there are no two great perfect days in a leader's life. I mean, it just doesn't happen. So every day I'm handed a lemon. And so what do you do when you're handed a lemon? You make lemonade. But I got 3 lemons over here because this is a crisis. Hey, we're getting a lot of lemons right now, baby. I'm talking, I mean, it's hailing lemons from the sky. You know what? We're drowning in lemons. And somebody says, man, when you got a lot of lemons, what are you going to do? Oh, you're going to make a lot of lemonade. And so instead of a glass, I'm making pitchers of lemonade right now. In fact, it's going so well, I'm thinking about starting a lemonade business. And just because it's just going so well. I mean, I've never had so many lemons supplied to me as right now. So I say, oh my gosh, the more lemons, the more lemonade. And again, what is this? This is nothing. This is nothing but perspective. Okay, same crisis. There are some people, they're focused right here. This is where they are. They just focused right here. And they're just saying, oh my gosh, everything's going wrong. Everything's going wrong. And some people are saying, oh my gosh, look at this. Look at this lemonade I'm drinking now. Look at the refreshing drink I got, all because of this. So, I mean, you can either live in fear, or you can live in faith. I mean, it's everybody's got a choice. And by the way, it's my choice.
Yes.
And by the way, the only reason I pick up a lemon is not to kiss it and wallow in it. And by the way, you can't moan and lead at the same time. I mean, is there anything worse than a moaning leader? I mean, just, you know, die, you refresh us. A moaning leader. So if I'm carrying, now as a leader, here's what happens. I hold up the lemon. This is reality. I never deny reality. Reality is the foundation we build every dream and hope on. And if you don't have a firm foundation of reality, in fact, I've argued with reality a lot, but I lose 100% of the time. Okay? So this is reality. This is reality. But hope is this. So what do leaders do? Leaders take and have their people hold this and teach them how to go over here and make lemonade. That's what we do. That's who we are. That's the things we're interested in.
That's powerful. Obviously.
Does that make sense? Now, Rob, I forgot your question. I've got to do a teaching there.
I think that's amazing. I think you've answered it through your illustration. You know, we're in a time of crisis, sure, but you will have surrounded yourself over many years, not only mentoring great leaders, but gleaning from great leaders who will have experienced their own crises of sorts in their own sphere of influence. What lessons have you learned from the greatest leaders that have informed your leadership and that will help inform and inspire our own?
I'm assuming, Rob, you're asking a question, what is the greatest lessons I've learned in leadership when they were leading to a crisis, so that we make it applicable to where we are right now? Well, the greatest one, my father's still alive. He's 98, by the way. I just saw him last week. Amazing. And amazing man. And my father, I heard him say, hundreds of times during difficult times, this too shall pass. And it's a great expression, and it will pass. By the way, during the good times, you better be saying this too shall pass also. Everything keeps moving, but this too shall pass is a greater than concept, which basically says it's not easy now, but it's okay. It's okay. In fact, I think it's very important for us to understand that life is not supposed to be easy, and there are not supposed to be quick answers. this is entirely different teaching, but sometimes when I'm teaching, I'll do this number and I'll say, let me say something that this represents life right here. Let me explain something to you. Everything worthwhile is uphill. Everything.
Yeah.
It's all uphill. If you have hopes, can I tell you they're uphill? Dreams are uphill. You want to have a great relationship? It's uphill. Want to build a big business? It's uphill. Want to build a great church? It's uphill. It's all uphill. There's nothing downhill about this. It's all uphill.
Yeah.
Every day. All the way. It's uphill. Now, if it's uphill, I have to become intentional in climbing that hill. I don't accidentally get to the top. No one ever wrote a book on accidental achievements. When you interview somebody that's successful and they're on the top of the mountain, you don't stop and say, how did you get to the top? How'd you get to the top? And you'll see a successful person look around and say, oh, I had no idea. I just woke up and I'm here. This is amazing. I'm totally surprised that I'm on top. No. Anybody that's gone to the top of the mountain, they know exactly how they got there. It's uphill all the way. They had to be intentional. They had to be deliberate. They had to be consistent. It's uphill all the way. Now, the reason that is such a powerful teaching is because if I believe life is uphill all the way and that I need to be intentional to get there, then when a crisis comes, I'm going to tell you the difference between everyday life when it's uphill every day and a crisis. This is everyday life. This is a crisis. It's just a steeper hill. If you've been climbing, you're still climbing.
Yeah.
It's just going to take a little longer, going to be a little harder. Hey, you're going to need more people to help you. This hill, maybe you can climb on your own. This hill, no, you probably need. So the law of Mount Everest, as the challenge escalates, the need for teamwork elevates. So you probably need more people. But the whole issue, it's uphill. Once I have mentally embraced the fact that life is uphill, everything worthwhile is uphill, then when a crisis comes, I don't have to adjust my thinking. I don't have to rearrange my values. It's just the hill just got a little steeper, probably a little bit longer, but it's still uphill. And by the way, when we get out of the crisis, it's not going to be like this or like this. It's going to be like this.
Yeah.
There's something beautiful about knowing that the best things in life are not free. You see, the dream is free, but the journey's not.
So good.
And that's why people love to talk about the dream.
Yes.
Worthless as can be. Worthless as can be.
Amazing.
The moment you start the journey, you start paying the price. The moment you start the journey, all of a sudden you begin to understand there's difficulties, there's opposition. And so we're in a journey right now. It just happens to be a little steeper, going to take a little longer. Pain's going to be, but this is a huge thought. This is a huge thought. Everything, Rob, everything your viewers, everything you want or need in your life, but you don't have. You want it, you need it, but you don't have it. You with me?
Yeah.
Everything you want and need in your life that you don't have, it's out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
If it was in our comfort zone, we'd already have it. We've got to step over and step up and step out to get it. Now, here's what's great about a crisis, Rob. What's beautiful about a crisis is it moves all of us.
Yeah.
There's not one person watching you right now that isn't being moved by the coronavirus. We're all moved. Hey, it moves us whether you want to be moved or not. In fact, this is one of the values of a crisis. It moves us. It moves in other times unmovable people. In any other time. So here's what the question is: not am I moved? Everything's getting different for me. It's different for you. It's different for all your viewers. The question is, do I have the right perspective, make lemonade? Do I let it move me forward, or do I allow it to move me backward?
Yes. That's brilliant. Gosh.
That's why people come out of a crisis. Some people are better and some people are bitter. Same crisis.
Brilliant. Well, the thing is, John, some people are going to look at you and your leadership gifting, and I mean, I just pulled a few books off my bookshelf that you've written, all on leadership. So this is just the beginning. So we've got some there. Then we've got a whole load on teams and influencing people. I've got your John Maxwell Bible here. And
Bless you, my son. Bless you, my son. Bless you, my son.
I received that. But all that I labor that point, because all that to say, on your leadership journey, there must have been a moment where there was a time that you perhaps could have or should have made a leadership decision that you, in that moment in real time, didn't make. Could you share what that moment was and what you wish you'd have done?
Yeah, well, let me give you, yes, that's true. Only the way you framed the question, there must have been a leadership decision you could have made or you should have made that you didn't make. I just have to reframe the question. There are hundreds of decisions. Okay.
Hard to believe, John. Hard to believe.
You're not dealing with a theorist here. You're dealing with a real leader, a person that is in the battle every day. If you're in the battle every day, you have to make a lot of decisions, and some of the decisions that I've made have not been the right decisions. So let's because I love this question. I love this question because I think that this is going to help all of us to get a big picture. Okay, so let me see if I can do this right. If I don't come back to me and ask it again, I'll try it the second time. Here we go. I was on the phone. We have in one of our companies, we have 7 companies in the John Maxwell Enterprise, but in one of our companies, we have what we call executive circle. That's just for high-level executives. And every month I call a CEO of if I named the CEOs, your viewers would know them. And because I have relationships with them, and I call them and we do an hour and a half conversation where they give me 20 minutes of their best practices, and then I, out of that, teach leadership of what they say for about 10 minutes to the group, and then I ask questions, and then we open up the phones and everybody can ask questions. So I was with the number 2 CEO software company in the world. And so I asked him the question. I said, okay, let's talk about the decisions that you made wrong, your failures, mistakes, whatever you call it, but your mess ups. I said, let me ask you about which one of your mess ups, which one of your bad decisions, which one of your failures would you like to go back and have a do-over? And his answer was life-changing. He said, none of them. And I said, what do you mean? None of them. Are you telling me, well, first of all, have you made some wrong decisions? He said, I've made a lot of them. Have you had failures? Yes, I have. Okay. Have you fallen? Yes, I've fallen. Okay. Yes. I got all of it. And I said, you're telling me that if you got the chance to go back and do one of them over and fix it, you wouldn't go back and fix any of them? He said, no, I wouldn't. And here's what he said. The lessons I learned from my failures have changed my life. The lessons I learned from my failures have established deep character within me. I'm bigger on the inside than I am on the outside because of my losses, because of my failures, because of my mess ups. He said, you have to understand, if I went back and did a do-over, I would lose the lesson. And the lessons have made me who I am today, not the decisions. So I choose not to do over any of them. I'm not ignoring the fact that I'm human. I made wrong decisions. I've had mess ups. No. He said, don't miss this. The lessons I've learned have been a greater asset to me. In fact, he says, I wonder what would have become of me if I would have never had bad decisions, failures, and mess ups. He said, I know I wouldn't be the man I am today, and I choose to be who I am. So I choose to live with those losses. I thought that was brilliant. I think decision making is overrated. I think decision managing is underrated. That's a whole different story. That's in my book, Today Matters. But I do think that. I think that we overestimate the making of the decision. I think we underestimate the management of that decision. So when we mess up on a decision, many times it wasn't the fact that we made the wrong decisions, it's that we didn't manage it, and so it turned out wrong. It's the management of it that really makes the decision work and live anyway. Anyway,
fantastic.
That was my stab at it.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm not going to ask that again. That's a brilliant answer. Penultimate question, John. How would you one day like to be remembered? Obviously, so many books, so many talks you've given, you've coached so many people, but what do you want to be remembered for? What do you want your legacy to be?
Yeah, I've thought a lot about that. One of my mentors was John Wooden, the great basketball coach at UCLA, who Sports Illustrated named the greatest coach of the 20th century. He was a phenomenal teacher, and so I had the privilege of knowing him well and having him mentor me a lot. And I remember one time I had him on one of my programs, and he's won as a college basketball coach. He won 10 national championships. Never will be matched by any other coach. And I asked him, because he was in his 90s, he was probably about 92 at the time. I asked him, I said, Coach, what do you want to be remembered for? What do you want everybody to think about your legacy? And I'll never forget, he looked at me, he said, well, I know what I don't want to be remembered for. And everybody kind of leans forward, and he said, I don't want to be remembered for 10 national championships and all the honors and all the awards that I've had. He said that to me is not what I want people. I don't want people when I die say, oh my gosh, look at all his national championships. He said, I want to be remembered as a good man. I want to be remembered as a person that added value to people. I want to be remembered as a person that valued people, who loved God. And he went through what you and I would consider the very basics, that what I loved about that is achievable by everybody. See, 10 national championships, we just applaud. We're fans. Yeah. We're never going to get there. And see, one of the things I think leaders need to do is they need to ask themselves, do I want fans in my life or do I want friends? It's a huge question. Right. You see, because in my giftedness, if I use that for the wrong reason, I can create fans, and they can just say, oh, John, you're amazing. Nobody, I've written 84 books. No, wow, you've written 84, 35 million copies sold. See, when I talk about my successes, I impress people, but when I talk about my failures, I impact people. And one of the things I think great leaders do is they intentionally close the gap. They walk slowly through the crowd. That's why I don't even, when I go to speak at conferences and they got these big bios of and I say, will you please not read it? Could you just say I'm here and let me speak? And I don't want any title. Don't tell them what I've done. These people, I'm here to help these people, not impress these people. Could you just let me get on the stage and talk to them for a little bit? And I walk out and say, my name's John. I'm your friend. Okay. I close. I get rid of the gap between success and people that don't feel. I get rid of it, and I don't want it. I don't want it in my life, because you can't help people if they applaud you. You can help people when they quit using their hands to applaud and they take their hands to hold yours and walk with you. And so therefore, when you talk about what you want to be remembered for, I think, if they would put on my tombstone when I die, his name was John and he was our friend. Oh, I like that.
I love that.
I just think that's good. I'm high energy, so my team says they're going to put on my tombstone, he finally ran out of gas. So I'm very high. I'm very high. But no, I don't. People's lives are changed when they say, yeah, I could do that too. And so I try to, I try to put my cookies on the lower shelf so everybody can have them. There's
Love that.
I don't like separation from people. I mean, I don't like titles. I don't like parking places. I don't like any of that stuff. In fact, when they introduced me, I told you about can I tell you something, Rob? If you're good, you don't need a big introduction.
Yes.
If you're good, and by the way, if you're bad, a big introduction won't help you.
So true. Yeah, makes it worse.
And I'm always amazed at one of the great concerns I have as a leader is I don't want anybody to put me on a pedestal. I don't want to. I don't want anybody to. I really don't like. Here's what I tell people all the time. I wish you could have seen me when I started out. I wish people could have seen. How old are you, Rob? Rob, are you 32?
Yeah, 32.
I wish people could see me at 32. First of all, I wasn't near as good as you. I didn't have my own program or anything like that. But I wish people could have seen me when I was young. Not now, because if they could have seen me back then, they would all have hope. If they would have heard me speak, they'd say, "Oh my gosh, I can do that well." They would have all had hope. You see, the problem here's what happens with success. In the beginning, you're not as bad as people think you are. Okay. But if you're really successful in the end, you're not as good as people think you are.
Yeah.
And so I'm constantly trying to level set everybody and say, no, I'm not that good. You don't understand. So, just put on my tombstone, my name's John, I'm your friend, and that's good enough. That'll work.
Beautiful. Beautiful. John, final question, and I'd then love you to pray and let us know how we can find you on your social media platforms and et cetera, et cetera. But if someone had the opportunity to sit down over coffee for an hour with you now, what would the one piece of advice be for them as you poured into them?
I would tell them that the gifts that they have and the potential they have, they're all God-given. God created us with giftedness and potential. And our gift back to him is maximizing those gifts and that potential. It's one thing to receive something big. It's something else entirely to take that and maximize it for God and for his glory. And so, every day I look at the blessings I have and I do two things. I express gratitude because I don't deserve them. I don't deserve them at all. I'm grateful. And the second thing I do is I pick up the responsibility of all those blessings, because those blessings carry a heavy weight. To whomsoever much is given, much shall be required. And when a person is in my position and has received and been blessed like I've been blessed, I have a major work to do to get the return out of all the things that I've been privileged to have.
Mm-hmm. Or could you pray for our viewers now that they would maximize their potential and what God's deposited in them, they would see reach its fulfillment in their lives?
I'd be glad to. Father, thank you for the time I've had with Rob. I first pray over him. What a beautiful young man. What incredible giftedness, potential you have placed within him. He has no idea all the great things you've planned for him. And I just pray that every day he'll just love you with his heart, mind, soul, and strength, and he'll love people. And that he will just take those blessings and gifts and give the return, God, that you believe for him to give. And for the viewers, Father, many of them are going through a very difficult time right now, and they're scared and they're worried and they're concerned, and they're uncertain. But Father, you have the ability to come and break through and minister to them and become their strength, become their light, even in a crisis to become their joy, because our strength comes through the joy that we have in you. So I just pray over them. I pray protection over them, but more than protection, I pray that they will maximize this crisis and they will allow it to draw them closer to you, closer to their family, and closer to the things that are on your heart. And so I pray a prayer of blessing upon them in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, John. And if people want to find out more about you, read some of your books, how can they get in touch with you and follow your work?
I think that they can go just to johnmaxwell.com. I honestly, I've never even looked myself up on the webpage. I'm not into it, but we've got great people with social media. But I think they just go to johnmaxwell.com. And one of the things I'm very excited about, we do have a coaching company in the John Maxwell team. We started 9 years ago. We have 33,000 coaches in 168 countries, and it's because we really equip people to coach and help other people in life. And we teach our coaches that they are people of value, that value other people and add value to them. And so if any of your viewers are interested in knowing more about what we do in our coaching organization, just tell them again to go to johnmaxwell.com and they'll find their way to know more about that. But anyway, I'm here to bless you and bless your viewers, and thanks for having me today.
Fantastic. And viewers, all that information will appear at the bottom of the screen now, so you have that information available to you. But John, thank you so much for your time. I hope you stay safe and stay sane in the midst of this lockdown, and blessings to you and your loved ones.
And right back to you, my friend. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.